host. So thank you. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming to the, I would call this the inaugural meeting of the Equity Group, now that we've changed our name, formerly the JEDI Group. So thanks everybody for coming. I've got the agenda up here, and I'm going to start with the tribal acknowledgements. Bear with me while I read through it. So nearly 200 tribal nations are located within the modern borders of California, more than any other state in the United States. In San Diego, the Kumeyaay people have been part of this land for millennia. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As an employee of the city of San Diego, we acknowledge this legacy. We promote this balance and harmony. We find inspiration from this land, the land of the Kumeyaay. All right. So, as I'd already mentioned, that we had last time and had many discussions for the several meetings before this, that we were going to rename this group as the Equity Group, as it just seemed to be more inclusive and make more sense for this team. So thanks for everybody for coming, and you're going to see some changes moving forward on the website. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. That's going to be updated, and we're going to have the new name there. So for right now, we're just kind of letting people know that it's a change, but you'll see it soon on the webpage. So thank you everybody for all your work and assistance on that. And then our star of today is Anna Holder, who's going to give us an update on the SWAMP program and the outreach program that they have started with that. So I want to thank her so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. And I will go ahead and stop sharing so that you can. All right, so then do I have to give you, or you're good? Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking over. Right. Good morning, everyone. As Vicki said, my name is Anna Holder, pronouns are she, her, and I am an environmental scientist at the State Water Board in Sacramento. And we're a couple of hats. So I'm the program coordinator for the Swamp Bioaccumulation Monitoring Program. And I'm also the co-chair of another work group of the council, the Safe to Eat work group. So I've been asked today to talk a little bit about the program realignment that the Bioaccumulation Monitoring Program is going through, which intentionally makes space for operationalizing equity, and some products that we're developing through that process, including a tribal or a community outreach plan and engagement plan and things like that. So context is important for these conversations. So I'm going to give a little bit of a background on the Bioaccumulation Monitoring Program and the Safe to Eat work group, and what's the difference and how we work together to do the work. I'm going to talk a little bit about the realignment process and some outreach activities and products that we're developing, and hopefully save a lot of time for conversation and discussion. Oh, I clicked a link. So can y'all still see my screen? Okay, great. So SWAMP has 4 statewide monitoring programs and 9 regional monitoring programs. And there's links on these slides that I will share after the presentation today. So if anything interests you, anything that's underlined is essentially a link. You'll be able to click to it later. Today, I'm going to be focusing on our Bioaccumulation Monitoring Program, which essentially our mission, our job is to generate data and information to help statewide to help inform the public of which fish and shellfish are safer to eat in water bodies throughout California. And so the Bioaccumulation Monitoring, I like to, if you're in the tech world, I like to think of it as the back end, right? So we're funding things, we're doing most of the coordination, and working with our contract partners to actually conduct the monitoring and analysis and things like that. The Safe to Eat work group is the front end. So this is the space we use to get feedback on what we're doing, coordinate other bioaccumulation monitoring type projects. And, you know, we also hear from the Office of Environmental Health Hazards Assessment on their development of fish consumption advisories, the direct connection between our work and theirs. So we use that space to collaborate and partner. And really the safety work group is how we, the arm that we use to communicate and engage with the public and our tribal partners and communities that are most impacted by the consumption of fish and shellfish that are do have bioaccumulation of pollutants. So the Bioaccumulation Monitoring Program and the Safety Work Group used to be the BOG, Bioaccumulation Oversight Group, has been around for a while. There's been monitoring happening since 2007. There's a lot on this slide. The big takeaway here is the majority of the monitoring has been happening in lakes and reservoirs, followed by coastal areas, and then some river and stream monitoring. And this year, we're going to be monitoring again in lakes throughout the state. And if you're more of a geographic visual person, here are some monitoring locations for each of these kind of water body types. So you can see, you know, statewide, that is by design. Rivers and streams is a little bit different, but yeah, so we've been monitoring for quite some time. I started working in my current role actually on the first day of lockdown in 2020. It's a big day. And part of my onboarding process was really learning about the program and working with my supervisor to understand what we've been doing really, really well for the past 15 years and where we could maybe do better in the future. And we highlighted 3 areas. I like to think of them as like pillars or opportunities of improvement. The first is building any relationship or stronger relationships with our tribal government partners. The next is filling data and information gaps regarding which fish and shellfish are safer to eat, particularly as it relates to folks that consume fish for subsistence or tribal and cultural purposes. And then also the water boards is a large organization, 10 different state agencies. And so we wanted to do better with working with ourselves in the different divisions, regions, and programs. And so we developed this thing that we're calling a realignment that really carves out time and space to incorporate community and tribal perspectives and needs, like long-term listening and learning sessions and relationship building. And this is really our experiment, our way of trying to figure out what operationalizing equity looks like for us. So, you know, where do we make space? How much of our budget do we allocate to this work? How can we do our part to dismantle injustice in the spaces that we're in and build better places where people feel like they belong and can contribute to the process? So the realignment is actually a series of 3-year cycles. The first year of a single realignment cycle is bringing together the region-specific advisory committee members, and I'll talk more about who those folks are in a second, and really digging into what is missing. What data or information do we have that's valuable to these folks? And what are the things that they like to see more of or see at all? And we work together to develop a monitoring and analysis work plan that the Bioaccumulation Monitoring Program then monitors for, samples for in the second year of the realignment. While that's happening, we continue conversations with our advisory committee to really start thinking about how can we do better at, how can the program do better at communicating with folks? We've got tons of really long technical reports on our website. I don't think my family that fishes is going to go on our website and read that 50-page report before they go fishing. So how can we do better at getting the data and information that people really need to make informed decisions into their hands when they need it? What does that look like for those communities? And then the third year, we begin to wrap up and think about, you know, what we've learned together and how we want to move forward together. So It's important for me to not like have a long-term project where people feel like they have to commit to something for 10 years or for the rest of their lives, but the partnerships are important. And so what does relationship look like outside of this formal 3-year space, and how can we continue to collaborate or partner or communicate, whatever feels good for the communities that we're working with. So I mentioned the advisory committee. The folks with really the decision-making power are tribal government representatives or community-based organization representatives. I mentioned earlier that we often hear from OEHA about fish consumption advisories. The process from collecting the data, collecting the fish in the water, to getting fish advisories out, or protecting beneficial uses or protecting water quality in California requires a lot of folks. And so a lot of different agencies, a lot of different folks in the water board. And so we invite select agency representatives from other California state agencies or federal agencies. Folks from the Water Quality Monitoring Council are present. Jay Davis is the Safety Workgroup co-chair and also the science lead with the Bioaccumulation Monitoring Program. And all of those folks, regional coordinators, are super important since it is a region-specific advisory committee. So we kind of walk in step with the regional board and very close partnership in this work. And then statewide swamp staff like myself. And all of these folks are in the room to listen and learn and contribute when that makes sense, but we're really there to make space for the tribal representatives and the community-based organizations to tell us what their needs and priorities are. A key part of this work is funding. We've had this conversation in many work groups about, we love to do this work, but how do we pay for it? Because it's not cheap. The Bioaccumulation Monitoring Program has committed about 30%, that varies year to year, 30% of their programmatic budget to this work. The majority of those funds go to monitoring. For those that have conducted monitoring, that's the most expensive part, the monitoring and analysis. And we also felt it was important to provide stipends or honorarium or offer them to the tribes and community representatives as, really noting and valuing the time and, generations of wisdom and expertise that they're sharing with us. So I mentioned the realignment is region specific and a 3-year process. So we started our first realignment in the San Diego region in 2021. So we're actually in our last year, which is bananas. I can't believe we've been doing this for 3 years already. So the first 2 years, we brought together an awesome group of advisory committee members. And as we planned, we developed a monitoring and analysis plan. We conducted that monitoring last year. We're starting to get the data back. We also, in those conversations, really early on, I learned a lot, which is fantastic, but we needed a space to kind of capture the longer term recommendations, priorities, and needs that couldn't really be addressed in a 3-year cycle or in a 1-year monitoring term. So we have what's called long-term committee recommendations document that we're kind of adding to over time to make sure all of those super valuable contributions are captured, and so we can refer back to them as a program moving forward. We've also drafted a communication and outreach plan to kind of articulate how the program and the regional board partners in this work want to continue communication, engagement, and outreach moving forward. I can't share that with y'all specifically yet. That's under review. And one of the key tenets of this work was really making sure that the advisory committee members had an opportunity to review all of the notes, all of the documents that we generate, provide their feedback, and essentially approve it and enable us to post it online. So that will be posted hopefully in the next month or so, but we'll talk a little bit about what's in it in the next couple of slides. So this year, we're going to finalize that plan and really, again, as I mentioned before, determine what partnership looks like outside of this formal 3-year process. It's been great to get to know the advisory committee members over the past 2 years. And, you know, there's lots of opportunities for partnership and collaboration moving forward. So it's really about exploring how do we do that in the future. And all of the products for the San Diego realignment and all of the realignment documentation is on this website, this bit.ly link here at the bottom. The next realignment cycle is actually going to start in 2024, but we're starting preparation in 2023. So we announced late last year that the San Francisco region will be the space for our second realignment cycle. And so this year, we're going to really start the outreach and engagement with tribes and community-based organizations to let them know what this thing is and if it's something that they'd want to commit to for 3 years. And we're also, you know, working really closely with the San Francisco Regional Board to figure out what our partnership looks like moving through this process. And I'm happy to say they're awesome, and it's going to be a great partnership, and I'm really excited for this next cycle. And then in 2024, that's when we'll bring everyone together and do the thing. We'll do the realignment in the region. A key part of the learning that I took away really before the first meeting in the San Diego region was the program, me specifically, we needed to allocate a lot more time to tribal engagement and really getting to know folks with no specific objective in mind. Of course, we all have our own needs and objectives, but really carving space to just get to know each other. And so in 2022, we initiated, the program initiated a statewide tribal engagement effort to really just get ourselves out there and invite folks to schedule meetings with us if that's something that they wanted to do, to learn about the realignment, the bioaccumulation monitoring program, SWAMP, and actually the entire Office of Information Management and Analysis where SWAMP resides. And side note, I'm also the office's tribal coordinator. So this really was in line with this work, and these engagement meetings are really, again, a space to just say hi, match names to faces, and get to know each other and figure out, you know, opportunities for collaboration and figuring out what collaboration and partnership looks like and feels right for the tribal government representatives that we're working with. So wrapping up the process of the realignment, this year we're wrapping up the San Diego realignment, preparing for San Francisco, and continuing statewide tribal engagement. Next year we'll begin the official San Francisco realignment cycle. And something that is more related to the council workgroups, the safety workgroup is really using the workgroup space to think about our priorities moving forward. We've been monitoring for 15 years. There have been good reasons for why we've made the choices we've made, but I mean, we aren't the same people we were 3 years ago, let alone 15 years ago. So we really want to check in and see if the priorities that we've been working under are the same priorities that are going to serve us moving forward. And we want to have that conversation in the safety workgroup space so that we can make space for folks to listen and learn from each other before we make programmatic decisions moving forward. So if you're interested in bioaccumulation or fishing or consumption advisory development, we want to hear from you next year. And then a part of this is really following up with regional coordinators, communities, and tribes. Again, it's a 3-year process. There's 9 regions. Y'all can do the math. This is a long-term effort given our current resources. And so it's really important to continue following up with folks and checking in and providing status updates, answering questions, reminding folks that this is the thing that's happening, but they can participate if they want. So that's something that we will do periodically moving forward, both internally and externally. And so when Vicky and Brian and actually Jay Davis reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to participate and present at the Equity Workgroup? This is what you asked for. You asked to talk about the outreach and engagement. How did we do what we do thus far, and what are we learning? You know, full disclosure, I'm trained as a ecologist and a marine scientist, not an advocate or engagement person. So I am learning as I'm going. And fortunately, the Water Boards has an amazing community of folks in this work that I get the privilege of learning with and learning from. And so some of the things I've learned so far is there's really like 7-ish steps to do the thing. The first, and I think it's most important, is figure out what you want to do and why you want to do it. This might sound silly, but saying we just want to engage with folks, like that's not good enough. What do you want to learn? What are they going to get out of it? What are you going to do with the information that they give you? Really like articulating that and putting it into a 1-pager or 1 or 2-page fact sheet is super helpful in terms of getting folks excited to engage with you. The next is figuring out who you want to speak with. In our case, with the Safety at Work group and the Bioaccumulation Monitoring Program, we really want to hear from community-based organizations and tribal governments. But depending on the work that you're doing, your audience might be different. So really thinking about who your audience is and targeting your types and methods of engagement to that audience is really critical. And I'm going to talk about that step 3 in a second. Once you figure out who you want to engage with, how you're going to do it, then you do it. You do the outreach, you send letters or go to meetings or whatever you decide makes sense. And then, step number 5, I think, is the really most important part. Really going into the space knowing that you're not the expert. If you were, you wouldn't be doing this, the engagement. You're not the expert. You're there to listen and learn and build relationship. And really, I think part of that process for me has been documenting, lessons we're learning and concerns and ideas, and sharing that with the folks that I'm engaging with, and really, sharing it with them while I'm documenting. So during meetings I'll often have a shared notes document that people can edit as we're talking together, or not, but they can see what I'm writing and make corrections as we go, or after the meeting they can say, hey, you didn't really capture what I was trying to say here, can you change it to be this? And being open to that and making the change, in notes documents to final products. And then really, unfortunately, we don't all have the resources and time and, things that we need to do this probably as much or as well as we'd like. So that means we need to make hard choices and evaluate priorities and what we're going to address and change and do first. And so, for the processes that I'm in, I really like to figure out what the priorities of the communities are and really put the most weight to those things. And then the last part is, closing out the project specifically, but not ending relationship. I think part of this work that's really important and hard to find a balance sometimes is, I don't want to continue to burden the communities and tribes that I work with the same thing over and over and over and over. And that's fine, but I still want to learn from them and build relationship and have, know that they can come to me if they have questions or issues or things moving forward. And so figuring out together what that looks like is something that I'm still learning with the realignment process. So kind of circling back to the types and methods of engagement, there's this thing that I learned about a couple of years ago from the International Association of Public Participation. There's a link to that organization at the bottom of this slide. They have a spectrum of public participation, and it really kind of defines the different types of participation and engagement that there are, and the different goals and really decision-making power that folks have on that spectrum. And so it's really important to be clear going in, knowing what level of engagement you want to see. Do you just want to keep people informed and let them know what you're doing, or do you want to empower them to help make decisions with you? There's sometimes there's a wrong choice, but what's most important is being really clear about what your intentions are so that folks know how to engage with you in that space, and really honestly if they want to engage with you in that space. Engagement takes a lot of time from everyone, so really being clear about what your engagement goal is and how folks, what decision-making power they will have in the process, I have found to be really, really helpful in getting folks excited to participate in this realignment process. A lot of folks that I've talked to, one of the first things that I hear is, so you're talking to me because you need to check a box, right? And it's like, no, actually this process is different and here's how. And how can we make sure that you feel that it's different, that that we're not just checking a box with the contributions and time that you're giving, and really adjusting our meetings or conversations to accommodate that. So you figured out the level of impact on decision making, the type of engagement that you want to do. So now there's different methods that you can use to engage. Emails, letters, web pages, those are, I think, minimum. We're all kind of involved in that in the work that we do, regardless of whether or not you're on the council. But figuring out if you want one-on-one meetings with folks. So with the tribal engagement space that I'm in, I have one-on-one meetings, me and the tribal representatives. And it's just a small conversation with just us. But then there are other times where I might present at conferences or in tribal spaces. And that's a different type of method of engagement, which comes with different preparation and different results. And there's an example. So these are screenshots from our tribal engagement plan that we made a couple years ago. And so if you go into the engagement plan, you can see more context around these screenshots and tables. And so just kind of some examples of different activities we've done that I've been talking about, but naming them as activities and then products associated with that. So the realignment process, the whole thing's engagement in my mind. The whole process is an engagement process. And so it includes, one-on-one meetings with tribes and community-based organizations to figure out if they're interested in participating. And then semi-regular meetings as the entire committee. And then the products that come out of that are things like the realignment plan, the update that we published late last year, letters, emails, slides, meeting summaries, all of that stuff kind of is part of the process, a product that comes out of the process. In the tribal engagement example, there's, the region-specific outreach, and then we also have the statewide outreach, and the products, the letters, and how we communicate with folks when we're doing the targeted regional outreach versus statewide is a little bit different. And then, informal or formal meetings, and then again, attending and presenting in tribal spaces. I'd also note here that as part of the water board, the type of engagement that I'm doing follows our consultation policy as closely as it can, but it's not required based on the type of work that we're doing. But there are other processes that governments go through that might require a formal legal consultation process with other tribal governments. So that's just something to be aware of and to get advice on if you're not sure the type of work that you're doing and where it sits in that space. And so the products, again, a plan, telling folks what we're thinking of and how we're thinking of doing it. And outreach letters, fact sheets are really helpful, something that folks can just kind of pass to tribal leadership or community-based organization leaders that might engage with us, so they can have an understanding of what their staff are getting into is really helpful. And again, meeting slides and summaries are all key products that have come out of this work. And so the communication and outreach plan, like I said, I'm not going to be sharing the actual plan with you yet. It's still under advisory committee review and approval, but essentially there's a bunch of stuff that you would expect to be in there. A table of contents, our goals, objectives, and actions, how we're going to assess and evaluate, and my contact information. But I'd say like the biggest part of the outreach plan is a description of the actions that we're going to take. So we intentionally wrote this plan to be centered on action. We didn't want to just say, hey, we're going to reach out to you in the future and say things. We have specific actions with identifying challenges that we might have, kind of bringing those actions to completion. Potential partners, I'm representing the realignment and tribal engagement, but I do not do this alone. There's a lot of folks that do this with me and support me through this work, both internally and externally. And then the time frame, being really realistic about, okay, we can start this given our current time and resources around now, and we think we'll probably finish it around here. You know, things change and it might not be exact, but kind of getting an idea for yourself and then for others on what they can expect to see with those different actions is really helpful. Again, the specific products that'll come out of that. So an example on this is really doing a thorough update and revamp of our web pages to make them more user-friendly and easy to find what people want to look for. And that's something that's already underway, and we've been working on it. I've been working in this space for, well, since 2020, honestly, but I'm including it in the San Diego Realignment Engagement or Communication and Outreach Plan because through those conversations, I was able to learn about specific needs that were identified through those conversations, and it really shifted my lens on, you know, the priorities, what should be updated first, what we should spend time on developing. And so that's an example of an action that's included in this communication outreach plan. And so folks can get an idea of that we've been working on it for a while, but that we also still have more work to do, and where we are now, the implementation status. And so again, the structure of this communication and outreach plan actually came from the Water Board's Racial Equity Action Plan, which is linked at the bottom of the slide. And so that's something that is published and open to the public if folks want to take a look now. And then I just want to note that a lot of times we think about outreach and engagement, and that's like the tip of the iceberg. That's what people see. That's the fun stuff. But there's a bunch of stuff that happens behind the scenes, under the surface, that takes more time and preparation and thought than we might think we thought. If that makes sense. I went into this thinking that, oh yeah, it'll take, 3-4 months to engage with tribes, and boy, was I wrong. And so I had to adjust and kind of work with that new timeline. And so that's also, being flexible is also part of this process. And so I've been talking to y'all for a long time. And so I'm gonna stop there, and if there are any questions, I'd love to have a conversation, or if I'd love to learn from you too, if folks have done things that they want to share.
Thank you so much. That was incredible. You're walking us through all of that. I know I have a couple questions, so maybe I'll just start with mine, and everyone can come next. So my first question was, you mentioned identifying community-based organizations. How did you go about doing that, especially if there's a region where maybe you don't have, a lot of contacts or something? Like, what do you do? Like, go to the yellow pages, or like, like, how do you start?
Yeah, that's a great question. Fortunately, the Water Boards has an Office of Public Participation that's done a lot of this legwork. And so I'm able to kind of have a list to start from of organizations that they know about or work with. But I think really the partnerships that I've found that have stuck, I've like talked to one person, or even when I'm in conversations with tribes or potential partners, I'll ask, who's missing? Who should I be talking to? Who else do you know about that can you introduce me? Is that something you'd be willing to do? Or, if I reach out to them, can you say, oh yeah, I've heard of Anna. She's okay. She's worth, 5 minutes or whatever. And really that's why I think really centering and focusing on relationship is so critical, because you find partnerships and relationships and new contacts that they're not on our Office of Public Participation list sometimes. And also, being part of the water boards, and one of the reasons why with the realignment, we're working closely with the regional boards. I'm based in Sacramento. There are some parts of California that I've never been in my whole life. So
Right.
getting really region specific partnership from, in my case, the water board, the regional boards, and really learning from folks that live in those spaces and live in those communities. And so if you don't have any of those resources at your disposal, I think my next best suggestion would be go into the community and see what's happening. Go to a community gathering or a meeting or whatever, assuming that's a space that is meant for you, right? And then start making friends, build relationships, and see what comes of it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, and then my next question was, I know you mentioned having a lot of meetings. I know you're up in Sacramento and this one was in San Diego. Did you travel to San Diego a lot, or did you have staff on the ground, or did you do a lot of Zoom meetings or a combo, or how did it work?
Yeah, so the first, this started in 2021. We were still in COVID times. So the first 2 years, all of the meetings were virtual. And one of the things that all of us felt is like, it'd be really great if we could meet in person. And I'm really excited that this year we are going to be meeting in person. We have a tribal partner that has agreed to host the next meeting. And so we're going to, spend time together in person and hopefully, do some site visits and really enjoy that time together. I think the best way to do this, best case scenario, is meeting in person. Just, we're humans built for connection, and that's the easiest way to build relationship, I think, for our brains. But I think providing different ways to engage is really important for folks that maybe aren't comfortable meeting in person or don't have time, or, provide different ways for people to give their feedback. So maybe, in addition to having something like a public comment where people show up and talk to you, provide a survey that can be anonymous, where people can still contribute and give honest feedback, but they don't have to be somewhere at a specific time, and they can kind of make it their own in a way that's more comfortable for them. So using a variety of methods for people to provide feedback and contributions is really, really important, and something that I'm still haven't perfected it. It's always a work in progress, but that's something that I strive for every time.
Awesome. Brian, I know you look like you were about to say something.
Yeah. Thanks again, Anna, for sharing with us. I really like that iceberg slide that you showed at the end. And the big thing that highlighted, stood out to me was failure. Failure is something that is always inevitably going to happen. So I was just curious as to if you could share, maybe one of your most valuable failures that you're able to learn from.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I think in a lot of our spaces, we're in cultures where like failure isn't an option. And I personally feel like that's baloney, and we need to fail in order to be innovative and succeed. And so I think the biggest failure that I'm grateful for in this is that when I started, I didn't know to carve out so much time for engagement. I really only did, 3 to 6 months of engagement in the San Diego region before we started. There have been impacts because of that failure and mistake. we're still doing great work as an advisory committee, but I think the learning that I got from that is really, creating the tribal engagement plan, really reaching out to and working with our tribal partners to figure out, how to kindly be present in tribal spaces, and be someone that people want to hear from, not just another, I say this as a term of love, another government wonk talking about things that they don't want to hear about. And so because of that failure, I really had to learn and grow and reach out to folks. And since then, I've been now starting to be invited into tribal spaces because they want to hear about this work and other work that we're doing in OEMA. And so I think that that's the biggest failure. The biggest mistake that I made in the beginning was not understanding and allocating enough time to engagement, particularly with tribes, but I think the same can be said for community-based organizations and communities themselves.
Thanks, Hannah. That's super valuable. Yeah, I can only imagine how awkward it might be to, try to say, hey, this is me. I'm trying to help you guys or whatever. I want to hear from you, and then nobody knows who you are, and they're just like,
yeah,
I don't want you here.
Right, and I think too, understanding the collective history of this continent and knowing my intention is good, and I know that I want to be helpful and supportive to these communities and tribal governments, but they've heard all of this before from people that had maybe different intentions. And so also understanding that there's going to be resistance, and that's normal and just part of the work. And I've had some really, really hard conversations with folks, but have also been equally beautiful, to kind of work through that resistance together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I think that's another thing that is really important to be aware of as we engage with communities and tribes that don't maybe look like the person that's doing the engaging.
Yeah, that's very valuable. Were you able to, I guess, form any sort of, I don't know how to call it, but I guess you kind of mentioned this earlier about being able to connect with somebody, and then that person was able to say, hey, oh yeah, this person's okay, for other people to then connect with you. So is that kind of something that you relied on heavily, just building one bridge at a time?
Oh yeah, I'm still relying on it. I'm one of the pieces of the conversation in the San Diego region realignment this year as we close is figuring out how we want to partner moving forward. But if there are other partners that weren't included in this space that I should be reaching out to and talking with, both in the San Diego region and the San Francisco region and statewide. So yeah, that's definitely something that I depend on and lean on all the time. And it's slow, but it's great. And someone, when I was starting this work, who had been doing this work for most of their career, saw me as an early career person, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, charging in at this work, and they said, no, it's going to take 3 or 4 years before you pick up steam, so just know that. And we're in year 3, and it's slowly starting to pick up. So I'm really grateful for that person to pull me aside and embrace me that, people aren't going to want to be your friend just because you send out that email. Yeah.
That's really good advice. Totally. But now everybody knows you, and they all know and trust you now. You got a reputation.
Slowly, it's building. Trust takes a long time to build, but we're working on it for sure.
Awesome. That's really good advice. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions? That was so great. I feel really energized by that presentation.
Awesome. I just want to, Amy provided an awesome comment in the chat, which I really thank you so much for sharing that. And one of the things that they ended with was the importance of trust and mutual respect. And I could not agree with that more. So thanks for sharing that, Amy.
Yeah, I came in a little late because I had another client call, but so much of what you say is so relevant. I think it's, you know, that mutual trust and respect with everybody. And like you said, it takes a long time. And I kind of think of it as like you plant the seed, you water to nurture and develop that relationship, and making sure that everybody at all times has, you know, authenticity and is transparent about things. You know, we have several Native American companies that currently support us in our efforts as a company. And I just know that the relationship building is a lot longer runway than some other situations. And I just, what you're doing is just amazing and inspiring, and a reminder for all of us on here and for others to continue to, you know, do some of the things that you've set the tone for. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thanks, Amy. And I think it's also, you know, I know I'm probably going over time, but I think it's also important to acknowledge that we're like, it's not like this is the only thing I get to do and that I can take all the time in the world. You know, we're all under different timelines and deadlines, and, you know, protecting and restoring water quality, like, I don't want to wait a long time for that. I want that to happen yesterday. And so, you know, there's this tension between literally carving out the time to build relationship and listen and learn and communicate, and doing the thing and making change as quickly as possible. I haven't perfected that. If someone else has, please let me know. But that's like a thing that I feel like I'm always struggling with. Anyway, yeah, thanks.
Wonderful. Any other thoughts from anyone? I actually have another thought, Anna. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to go back to your presentation.
Oh yeah, okay, I'll share it again. Which slide, and I'll bring it up.
The one with the table that has the from the International Association of Public Participation. I thought that was so cool. And yeah, these especially, like, and I think the next one too, where it actually shows building on from one to the next, like, I just think that's so helpful. And you know, I'm a really visual person, so I'm like, oh, I love this. Like, it actually gives you like instructions almost, like each item. Yeah. this is one way to do this and another way to do that. I just found this so helpful and interesting, and I think it can really be used in not just other work groups that are looking to do more engagement and you know, try to get other communities involved, but you know, it's just a really good template for, yeah, what are you trying to do exactly? Just that, you know, I'm required to tell you about this. I'm going to put an ad in the paper, or, you know, I really do want to get that engagement. So I love this.
Yeah, I would highly recommend checking out the website, and there's a link to the IAP2 spectrum. So mine is slightly modified at the bottom of the slide. All super great resources that I highly recommend.
Awesome. Thank you. And looks like we have a question. I think it's Morelli. Is that how you pronounce it? Or Marielle?
Marielle.
Marielle.
Thank you. Hi, thank you. Thank you, Anna, for your presentation. This has been awesome. And I don't have a question, but I don't know how to ask it. So
Great.
I know that my question is about the inherent cultural differences between our tribal nations and our, you know, Western colonialistic government, and then around the generational trauma surrounding that colonialistic white saviorism that actually then turns out to be like veiled imperialistic awfulness, right? So that's the trench in which I'm trying to ask this question. So for me personally, in my personal and professional development, I've been working on listening to podcasts or listening to stories or listening to like audiobooks or reading articles about learning the cultural differences for our local tribes here in the San Diego region. Do you have, I mean, did you do some of that work up front before you started your outreach campaign? And then do you have any recommendations that you were like, oh, wow, I really learned from this person's podcast about engaging with elders in our tribal communities, and where you wait until that elder speaks, and sometimes it's, you know, 20 minutes to wait to listen. do you have any of those resources to help in that training?
Yeah, so I think the key thing here is doing the work ourselves. If it's not clear, I'm a white woman. I come into a room with a lot of privilege, not maybe as much as a white man, but still quite a lot of privilege. And so understanding that and breaking that down and doing that personal work is really, really important. I think that people learn in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of great resources out there. Nick, I wonder if you could add a link to the racial equity resources, bibliography link. I think that's really helpful. Just the racial equity team at Cali, PA, and the water boards have put together a ton of awesome resources. I think there's also a bunch of links on the council website somewhere. But I think the key here is to just, at least from my experience and my opinion, I'm never gonna stop learning because there's so much to learn, and
Absolutely.
it's ever evolving. And also, there are, tribal sensitivity trainings, which that's a weird, anyway, I have feelings about that language, but there are trainings out there with that sort of guidance. And I've taken them, and I think the biggest takeaway that I hear from all of them is you can't take one training about one person or a small group of people and say, okay, I know everything about this community now, or that the fiction that all tribes and all tribal cultures are the same. I think really what's for me been most important is doing whatever research or work that I can, and then going into the space knowing that I don't know everything. I will never know everything because some things aren't for me to know, but just to listen and learn and know that I'm going to make mistakes. And, as Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. And so I think that's the thing that I take away. And like I said, I'm also a fan of books and podcasts and websites and all the things. But that would be a long list that I don't have prepared. But yeah, I think
That's okay.
There's lots of things on the interwebs, and folks really picking and choosing the things that work, the methods that work for them. And also I would encourage folks to get into the topics that make you uncomfortable. Don't stay in your comfort zone, because that's not where we grow.
Yeah.
Even though
okay, cool.
Get comfortable with discomfort and know that that's a part of being human, and it's okay, and work through it. That's something that I've done, again, imperfectly, and I'm still learning, but yeah.
As am I. Cool. I was curious if you had any other insights, but I thank you so much, Nick, for posting that link in the chat box. I really appreciate it.
And I'm wondering if some of these could be, that was a great question, Mariel. I wonder if some of the stuff that Anna, that you've found, I think this is a big roadblock to a lot of white folks. It's like, where do I start?
Yeah.
We have that resource page on our work group. Maybe we could update and add a few things, and maybe categories of, of types of information, so people can quickly get to, they need the tribal piece, where to go.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Shelley. We were actually going to talk about that a little bit later in the meeting, but that is perfect. We actually do have a list of resources there. We have a few that we want to add already, and I'm working on categorizing them so that it's not just this long list that's really overwhelming. Like, you have to click on every link to try to figure out. So we're trying to figure out the best way to categorize them. But yeah, I agree. We have some resources already, but I think, Anna, your advice was just amazing. Like, yeah, we're not going to be perfect, and there's a lot of stuff that isn't even really for us to know. You just have to do your best and have those good intentions and keep trying to learn and do better every time. So I love that. And Nick did put a link in the chat for that, and he also added a link which is really helpful. Thank you, Nick. For those that do want to start doing this process, and maybe you don't have those resources or know who to reach out to with your community members, you put the link in there to reach out to the local water board to help with that. And I think that's a good rule of thumb. I hadn't even really thought of it that way. They do get a lot of those, have a lot of those contacts more than maybe we would, or, you know, somebody else would, so you can reach out to them. They're always usually happy to help share those resources or make those introductions. So that's great. Awesome. Any other questions? I'm looking to see if I see any hands. Great. Well, Anna, thank you so much. And can you share this presentation so we can share with the group here? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm gonna PDF it. I was making changes up until I started presenting.
I always
so
do that,
I'm gonna PDF it and I'll add it to the chat if I can, or I'll send it to Nick and he can share it with the group.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I was so excited about your presentation. I realized I didn't even really introduce myself or Brian at the beginning. So sorry, everyone. I was just so stoked to hear what you had to say. So as a reminder, I'm Vicki Kelkerts at the City of San Diego Stormwater Department, and Brian is our co-chair. Brian, you want to introduce yourself quick? I'm so sorry for not doing that.
No worries. Yeah, I totally was not thinking about that either. But yes, I'm Brian Santos. I'm with the City of San Diego Public Utilities Department in the Marine Micro Lab. And so, yeah, I'm a co-chair along with Vicki, and just, yeah, pleasure to be able to be here and learn from everybody and work together to creating more equity.
Yes, and the other thing I wanted to mention too is that this wasn't not going to take 3 hours today either, so don't worry, you guys will have most of your morning back. We're just focusing on Anna's amazing presentation this morning. So thanks everybody, and I'm so sorry for skipping over that this morning. I was just so excited. Okay, so I think the next thing we wanted to talk about was the webpage, and I know Anna had mentioned this, and you probably have seen even some of the new LIRIS updates are looking way cooler than they used to. I was actually like, saw the one for this meeting and I was like, what's this? I was like, oh, there's the agenda. How cool. Like it's set up now. I guess I'm easily impressed. But Brian, I know you were the one that was working mostly on that. If you wouldn't mind giving a quick update on where we're at with it.
Yeah, definitely. So let me see if I can pull up a rough template just to kind of give everybody a slight idea of what it'll look like. I know Anna did a lot of the head work for this, and so she's been super helpful with helping everybody in the council get into this nice uniform new website template. Let me see if I can share. There you go. And this one. All right, can y'all see that? Oh, there you go. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a kind of overview of what the main homepage would look like. And so basically you would have this kind of headers sections, so you can hover above and have a drop down of things that will show up, at different links that'll show up. So it'll be nice and easy to kind of navigate around and find the different parts of our web page easily. And so every main web page will have that same header, so it's easy to go from meetings to about us and resources, etc. There's also a possibility that we can have another section, another kind of link that we might want to include. So that was something that I wanted to put out to everybody and kind of gauge if there's any ideas of another kind of broad section that we might want to have. So for example, I know Swamp has like a link to like the bioaccumulation program and monitoring things. So I don't know if we have anything similar that anybody has an idea of. But basically the homepage would look like this, and then have these different sections of what we do, different initiatives, or our goals, tools and resources, announcements, and partners that we have, just to give somebody a brief introduction into us. And then in our About Us section, we have more info of our background, how to join us, when our meetings are, things like that, a little bit about the folks that are involved. And then scrolling down some more, so our meeting section, so this would be where we could include the agendas and meeting notes and just kind of keep everybody updated easily. And then the resource page would have all the different resources. And Vicki, maybe you want to go a little bit more detail about what that's going to look like.
Yeah, and just like I was saying, right now there's this really long list of just all these different kinds of resources, and I'm working to kind of categorize them in, like overcoming bias or whatever subsections make sense, so it'll be easier for people to get to the resources that they would need. And then if anybody has anything they would like to add, please just send it to us anytime and we will add it to it. I'm also every time Nick sends something out that's some cool resource, I add that to my list as well to add to this resource. So we'll be updating that as well. I'm really excited about that. I think it'll be really helpful. I know I was a little overwhelmed when I first saw it. I was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff on here. Like, this is really cool, but where do I start? So we're trying to just make it a little easier.
All right. So kind of going back to what I was bringing up about if we would like a kind of custom work group or custom section for our work group specifically, does anybody have any ideas that they would like to see?
Yeah, so I know right now we have a little logo on the web page. And so we were thinking this would be a good time to maybe update that if anybody has any artistic skills or interest, or we could also just go with no logo, but it might be fun to have our own, specific thing. So now's our chance to do that since we're doing this whole revamp. So if anybody is an artiste or knows of one, or knows a good graphic designer or wants to come up with something, please let us know. Or if you have any thoughts, we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, at the very least, I could have them put back just Equity Workgroup and use the same logo, but it's up to you guys. We used our graphics department to make that one, but they're pretty backed up. But having them just remove or rename the text would be pretty easy. So
Okay.
Okay.
Well, at least there's that. Okay, well, if anybody has any other thoughts or ideas, just let us know. It doesn't have to be today by any means. We'll have time. We're still working on getting this updated. So just let us know if you have any thoughts.
and some of the other resources that that the graphics unit and the web unit have beyond the icons that you kind of see here is basically Adobe stock. They have access to stock images, so you can search there without they won't let you download anything unless you sign up for whatever, but you can at least search and find some of the different equity based type of photos or images that you might consider, but that they should be able to utilize for the web page.
Okay, that's a good idea too. Just we want to keep it engaging looking as well, not too boring.
Yeah, totally.
But not just have the stock icons. That would be great. So if anybody has any ideas, that would be awesome too. Thank you. Oh, Shelley, please.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I haven't tuned in all the way, but when do you have a new logo, or do you want me to just update the one to say equity instead of JEDI? I have the Google slide. I should put that in I think that's in the directory for the work group, but I can update it so it says equity instead of JEDI.
Okay, I think that would be a great start.
If you like it, the circle of hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the water drop.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I think that would be a great start. At least get that updated so we have something to go for. And then if anybody has, this is just an opportunity in case anybody has any other thoughts or updates or anything.
Right. Yeah, it's just a placeholder, and I created that just kind of when we first started out, but I'm happy to update it, or if you guys want something else, that's fine too.
Great, awesome, thank you.
All right, this is what the current logo is, in case anybody was wondering.
Thank you, Brian. We're not trying to describe it. That's helpful.
And so would I just put, do we want just equity work group, equity What do you want it to say? You want
Right,
something?
yeah. I mean, I wonder,
I could just put the wording in the water drop and that's it, and then
yeah.
have
if you
nothing
just
around.
change that part in the middle. I
Yeah.
mean, do we want to keep this part here? This is kind of like, I don't know, a nod to what the group initially kind of was based off of. And I mean, but then it seems kind of weirdly repetitive to have equity twice. So I don't know,
Oh, yeah, that's
you know what I
true.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a little cleaner just to have just equity.
Okay.
I'll do, it's easy to do both. I'll keep it and then I'll take it away and put them
Okay,
both out
that
there
makes
and you
sense.
guys can decide.
See what it looks like. Okay, that would be helpful. Yeah, and if anybody else has any other submissions,
Yeah,
we'd love to see those too.
There's
Right.
several layers in there. There's the rainbow, kind of hazy rainbow, and then the multiracial hands and the water droplets, like several things that came together.
Perfect. Awesome. That's really cool. Thanks for doing that.
Of course.
All right.
And then for the Vicki, for the stuff you're doing with the resources, do you have like I saw that the way you have it is like different categories. I'm wondering if might be, is there a download that people could do, or like a search where they could search amongst all the categories if they had a search term that they wanted to find? I think there's a search function currently, which is nice.
So. I think so, Nick. That's still going to be an option with the new webpage, right? I think people could search.
Cool.
Can be, yeah, it can be.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree. I think that would be helpful. And the categories are just going to be like, I think just like a table or whatever, just, so it should be easy to search through those. And if anybody has any thoughts, I'm all ears, that's for sure.
It is, like you said, it is a large list. Sometimes I was going to say, if you didn't have it blocked out by categories, you could at least click on the different columns and be able to sort by that. So you could either sort by the title or the resource or the category or something like that. But if you already have it broken into categories, then that, and also a search function that might serve that purpose well.
Yeah.
I think once if it starts growing where like different categories are really big, then we might want to even have filter, sortable within that category or something like that.
Yeah, got it. That's a great idea. Thank you. All right, cool. We'll definitely bring it back to the team here once we get in. It's not set in stone. Once it's up, we can make those changes much more easily, it sounds like. So we're pretty excited about that too. Keep it much more up to date. So, oh, it looks like Anna did something cool. Thanks for all the links, Nick. That's helpful. Oh yeah, I see that. That's a really great search option. Cool. Wonderful. All right. Brian, did you have any other updates on the webpage?
Nope.
Okay. All right, great. Well, we're moving right along. And the next item was, we just wanted to create a new standing agenda item for all the other work groups that are attending. Because the idea for this group is really just to be a resource for all the other work groups in the council, so we can help move along the equity items for each work group. So we just wanted to have an item on here in case any other work groups wanted to have any other quick updates for us, whether it's on your work on this outreach and equity items or anything else that would be helpful for the rest of the team members to know. Now is your chance to do so. See if I see any hands. Oh, we got one, Shelley.
Yeah, just a quick update. I'm the liaison for the trash work group, and I've been working with Shelley Moore and others with for an engagement with Coast, which is Krista Kamer is on the monitoring council, and they have a very vast and representative population of disadvantaged communities, and we're hoping to partner with them for a project that would kind of uplift those students. So I can't share a lot about it because it's a part of a proposal, but yeah, so it's really exciting to be able to do that. So
Great. Well, that sounds like something that could be a future agenda item.
Yeah, definitely.
Once you have it rolling, we can have you do a presentation on that. That would be great. I'll put that down. Great, thank you. Anyone else have anything they want to share?
I have a quick update. So I'm Chris. I'm from the Environmental Flows Workgroup. I gave a brief update to the work group on our last quarterly meeting, just on this work group, what we're doing, just asking if people are interested and wanted to join our work group. And then I made updates to the work group charter based on some of the suggestions, and then I shared that with the group. I got a couple of feedback, and then we're gonna wait until our next meeting. I think it's gonna be in May, to finalize it and post it on our website for the EFOS work group.
Excellent. That's great news. I know we shared that resource last time. I'm so glad to hear it's being utilized.
Yeah, that was really helpful.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. That's wonderful. Great. And if there's anything else, that would be a good resource for your team, let us know. We're happy to help. I love your picture too.
Oh, thank you. It's the LA River.
Oh, there's a little canoe. Yeah, kayak. Oh, cool. Thank you. Awesome. Any other updates? All right, great. And then, so the next item is just to reach out to you guys, see if we have any other requests for speakers or agenda items moving forward. You don't have to have anything right now, but if you want to reach out later, if you come up with something or have some thoughts about something you'd like to hear about, or something you'd like to present on, now's your chance to let us know. Is there anything in particular you guys would like to hear, or anything we can help facilitate to have a presentation or a training or something like that here?
Yeah, it looks like Dagmara in the meeting chat had a couple questions about if there are resources available to get executive management to support engagement and participation in creating equity. How do you get the executive team to acknowledge racial inequity and to take actions to address racial inequity? So those are very, very good questions. First of all, I'm sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once, trying to record that and talk at the same time. Does anybody on the call right now have any experiences or any suggestions, first of all, that could possibly help answer that?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. So what resources are available to get executive management to support engagement and participation in creating equity? How do you get the executive team to acknowledge racial inequity or racial inequality and to take actions to address racial inequality?
And are they addressing the Monitoring Council Executive Committee?
I think, Dagmar, are you referring to the organization that you're a part of? Or Dagmar, sorry.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if my mic was working or not. So we have a lot of tasks to do. I work in the Stormwater Resources program here in the city of Stockton, and we have a lot of tasks to accomplish, right? And then I found this group and find it important to address these issues. And I'm just wondering, how do I get my managers, my bosses to say, sure, go ahead and spend several hours a week focusing on this, right? You need support from them in order to be able to follow through on these actions. And are there resources for that? What could I do to get them to say, yeah, I think that's a great idea? Because sometimes when I bring it up in a meeting, you get weird looks or like, hey, aren't you busy with that other thing you're supposed to be working on?
That's not your job. Yeah. Yeah.
Just looking for advice in that.
Yeah, I wish I had something to give you. I just do it on my own time. So like even this meeting, I'm going to extend my hours today. So that's how I handle it. And I obviously wasn't able to handle it all that well because I needed to give up leadership. But yeah, my own agency did hire a DEI kind of head, and they have kind of a program now, and that helps, but that's not, that's not my job. And so I haven't had that conversation with them. I just do it because I know it's important, and that it has a really good tie-in, but I haven't really acknowledged that I do it.
And Shelley, I'm sorry to hear that. That is a bummer.
That's just me. I just decided to go that route. But here I am on YouTube, just kind of telling everyone, and I've said it in council meetings before. So that's, I can do with my time, I can do those things on occasion, and it really is relevant. So tied to the work that I'm doing in the trash monitoring work group and others. So, but yeah, it's a great question, and Anna maybe has an answer.
Yeah, I was gonna say Anna might be able to help with that, and Nick is dropping some resources there as well, about maybe some training opportunities. So Anna, go ahead.
I was just gonna talk about the resources that Nick is sharing. I think, really there's a lot of resources on the Water Board's racial equity page. The folks throughout Cali, PA, and the water boards have been working on shifting the culture to be a more equitable one for quite some time. And I just want to acknowledge that I've also received that resistance, not from my leadership or even at the state board or the regional boards. Just like it's a change, it's a shift in thinking, it's a shift in culture, prioritizing equity versus productivity sometimes in terms of how we define productivity. And so the Government Alliance on Racial Equity is also another one. So I would just check out the resources that Nick is sharing in the chat. His fingies are faster than mine today. And I just want to acknowledge that you're not alone in experiencing that. And it's a hard thing. And sometimes you can get past it and maybe sometimes you can't. And there are resources out there that can hopefully help you navigate that in the situation that you're in.
Yeah, and I would add to that too. I know it is really disappointing to hear that that's the situation that you're in, and a lot of times that stuff really does need to come from the top to change the culture of the entire organization. But I think sometimes I even say this to our regional board. Sometimes it's helpful that we have requirements. Not that we want more requirements, but sometimes that actually helps, makes that change internally. So maybe pointing to some of the things that are, these required types of engagement, and that the shift in the state and regional boards, stormwater permits and the things that they require. Sometimes you can kind of use that lens and say, well, it is a requirement that we have to, do these things. And, I'm interested, and hopefully they'll allow you to take your interests and be more involved that way. Sometimes that's how I do it. Not that I ever get any resistance, from my management. They've been very supportive of me being involved in these types of things, but sometimes that has worked for me when you say, well, it's required, so somebody's got to do it. I'll do it.
And
Can
then
I ask?
oh, go ahead, Nick.
I just wanted to ask, what industry are you coming from? Are you working? Do you work for a local government agency? Are you a consultant?
Local government, City of Stockton, Municipal Utilities Department, Stormwater and Collections.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a great angle that Vicky kind of just mentioned, because with AB 2108 and permitting actions are now being required for at least the water board to look at racial equity based data, whether it's demographics data when writing their permits and stuff like that. It might behoove your management, if they're kind of not open to having the conversation and making racial equity a priority for them. You could say, well, your efforts and their efforts to provide time to learn about that sort of thing would help them make sure that what the water boards are coming out on their permits is accurate. It could also, especially coming from Stockton, do they want to take a stance in prioritizing learning about the communities that they're serving within Stockton, just from an optics standpoint as well. But there are, different angles. I'm surprised that you're getting some resistance, but as a local government, but you could also just point to some of the actions that the state board has done and some of those links and be like, look, this is a state agency that's our main regulator. Maybe we should think about looking into some of these things from our perspective. And Shelley, coming from LA County Sand, might have, I mean, I assume LA County Sands took some sort of steps. I know they didn't, maybe not let you dedicate your time specifically,
Right. I didn't even ask.
but
I haven't asked. It's
Yeah.
just, you know, I'm on various work groups that I don't have to ask for everyone. And this to me is a judgment call that I think is relevant and, you know, important and something that I'm passionate about. So I choose to, you know, tie that in. But no, I haven't had that conversation. It's not that they're blocking me. Just I
Mhm.
know that things are very siloed. So if I'm working on wastewater and something stormwater, there'd be a big question, you know, and it's like, well, if that's so siloed, I assume that anything else would be too. So
That's the kind of feeling I have, exactly, because of the silos. How do I kind of break down the walls and even maybe address it with outside of municipal utilities, like with council? I heard Amy talking about council and just looking for those resources. So thank you very much for sharing those, and I will definitely be checking them out and reaching out to others.
yeah, and that's a category in itself for our resources is you know, employer engagement or, you know, municipality engagement, something like that to kind of grow the audience or just participation or just engagement.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, I know, you know, here at the city of San Diego, we have a whole, you know, office of, you know, I forget what it's called, the exact title, but, you know, like an equity office, and it's really become a big priority for the city. There's, you know, like work plans and that kinds of thing. So it's a little easier for us to integrate those things here, I would think. But sometimes I just reach out to those folks too, and, you know, and just try to like network and work with them and coordinate on efforts. So maybe something like that too. But yeah, just I think Amy has some really good advice here in the chat about just, yeah, getting up and saying those things as often as you can and working with those organizations. I'm not sure what your role is in the organization, but a lot of times we have to coordinate with local communities. And, you know, even though I'm more on the policy side, I deal with a lot of our community groups, and, you know, I just kind of couch it in that way. Well, you know, we really have to work out with them. We need their buy-in to be able to, you know, move this program forward, or, you know, even build this CIP in their neighborhood or whatever it is. And just, you know, maybe that's always an angle that I try to use too, and try to get to do the things I like to do. So you do have to have a good argument for it sometimes. But I think, yeah, some of those trainings might help.
I have a feeling they'd recommend at my agency to send the DEI person to this instead, but they're not necessarily, they're from HR, so it would be a different kind of viewpoint, different background.
That's too bad. That's really too bad.
But that's just my thought. You know, I'm inspired. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go talk to her and start there and just see, you know, what kind of things are going on, and maybe we can have a meeting just about this topic. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I think that's really interesting, is how to break down those barriers and try to start creating that culture within your own organization too. I think that is a, you know, Anna mentioned the 3-year process just for engaging with local communities with the support of her agency. So starting with within the agency is definitely going to be a long haul, but I think that's a good idea. We can put that down as a topic for next time.
Yeah, I know within mine, it's a brand new thing. The DEI person is a brand new position, brand new hire. They had a survey, they had some focus groups, one of which I was part of. So it's just starting, and they have a, you know, initial 5-year plan kind of thing, but it is in its infancy. So maybe now's a good time. And before that didn't exist when I was, you know, when I initiated the JEDI Council and it was on the monitoring council. So things have changed.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Well, that's an awesome question. Thank you, Dagmar, and thank you for participating and, you know, feeling comfortable enough to ask those kinds of questions. Appreciate that. This is exactly what, you know, the kind of resource we want to be for the other work groups and for folks on the council and other agencies and anybody that's interested. And Dagmar, I don't know if you're seeing the chat, but Nick put another link in there too for AB 2108, which, like I said, sometimes that's how I just say a thing. I'm like, well, it's a requirement, so I got to do it. So there's that in there too. So, all right, anything else? I'm trying to see all of these. Okay. Okay, wonderful. These are great conversations. I'm really feeling excited about how this group is moving forward. Okay, so if at any time you have any ideas or any other thoughts, any types of presentations you'd like to see, please reach out to us and let us know. And I think that was kind of our open floor part of the agenda as well. So really the last item is just the next meeting. The way the quarters have worked out is that our next meeting would be on July 5th. So we were thinking it's probably a good idea to reschedule. And I see Nick shaking his head. Probably most of the people are taking that week off since it's a holiday week, a big holiday. So Brian and I were thinking, and we've had another issue with another holiday with this quarter system. So we were thinking of shifting it 1 month past, so having the next meeting be in August, the first Monday, or excuse me, the first Wednesday of August, and then from there, what did we say, November and then February. So just kind of shifting the quarters up 1 month, and I think we're going to avoid most of the holidays and things that way. So we just wanted to check with everybody here and see if that made sense. I think, Nick, we already checked the calendar and it seemed like that worked out okay.
That week is the Environmental Monitoring Symposium in Minneapolis.
August, the first week of August.
Yeah, the 31st through the 4th. Like, yeah, but I don't know that impacts anyone else besides me.
Okay. I love Minneapolis. I went to school there.
Oh, I know. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that's a nice. It'll be hot, but that'll be fun. Does that affect anybody else? That particular conference?
And it may be that I can tune in through Zoom anyway. Like,
yeah, that's true. Take an hour off or whatever, a couple hours. Okay, well, I think we might have to do that at least for this next meeting. And then if that shift, that would be beginning of November, beginning of February, just looking at the months for like, that actually looks pretty good for not interfering with any, major holidays or issues, because we're really looking to get as many people engaged in this work group as possible. And I think that was actually one closing thought I had too, is if anybody has any ideas or if there's anybody you can forward this to that may want to be involved, any colleagues or anybody, please, spread the word, let them know. We really want to engage people as best we can in this. So we have a really good group today. I know sometimes we haven't had as many folks, so we'd love to have, as many people as possible. So if you have any thoughts or want to forward it on to anybody, that would be great too. Brian, did you have any other parting wisdoms or thoughts?
I just again, thank you everybody for being here. I want to just make sure that everybody that is here kind of is on like the email list, and that we have everybody's info. So I think I've got everybody. I know whoever Kay Worthley is just joined us. Unfortunately, we're just about to wrap up, but if you wouldn't mind just sharing your name and organization, and just so we can make sure that you are getting regular updates from us, that'd be really appreciated.
Hi, my name is Kristen. Hi there, I'm Kristen Worthley, and I'm from the city of Lompoc. And yes, I do think I get the updates.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a little bit of a shorter meeting. We just block it out for 3 hours just in case we end up having like a training or multiple speakers or something. But in general, I think the meetings would be more like 1.5 hours to 2 hours in general. So don't have to worry about having your whole morning dedicated to this. So wonderful. Well, thank you guys all so much for coming. We do really appreciate it. And Anna, thank you again. That was amazing. And we will definitely post the recording and the presentation up, and so we'll have that available for folks. That was really helpful. Thank you so much. Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
and
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
We'll see you in August. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you
wait,
much.
one more thing. I
Oh,
forgot
sorry.
to notice. No, people.
No,
leave.
it's
Sorry.
okay.
I know me and Vicky are going to be at the National
Oh,
Water
yeah.
Quality Monitoring Council
Oh, Vicky too.
meeting.
Nice.
Yeah, I
conference,
got
at the
permission.
end of this month. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
happening so fast.
It
So yeah, just wanted to point that out there. And if you guys have anybody, you'd like, of them might be there too, and it'd be great to be able to connect with them. I'd appreciate if you, just reached out to us and share, and then we can make sure we get connected.
Yeah, we'll be there. So definitely
I'll
reach
be there.
out. Yeah, so we can
All right.
go out for dinner or lunch or something sometime. So if anybody wants to join us, just reach out. Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brian. I almost forgot about that. Thank you so much.
I'm
All right,
looking
thanks,
forward to
everybody.
hearing back what
Yeah.
transpires. Your report out.
Definitely.
It'll be great.
I'm really excited. I know there's going to be quite a few of, they're still calling it JEDI, so we'll be quite a few JEDI type presentations and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to learning what we can there and bring it back to this team too.
Cool.
Great. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Thank you.
Bye.